Thank you so much. Hello and welcome to this session. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here in Prague. It's my first time in this very beautiful city, so thank you for inviting me, Zuzi. Didn't we have an excellent keynote this morning from Linda? Round of applause for Linda. Absolutely astonishing. I enjoyed it so much. And so what Linda told us is if we want a smart group, we need to get everybody talking, which is a nice segue into this one, making stakeholders talk. So Linda, we're going to get there. A little bit about me and my background, and I am fighting a little bit of a cough, so I'm hoping I made a deal with it. Just don't do it for half an hour. So let's see how that deal goes. A bit about me and my background in getting stakeholders to talk. I started out in journalism, and then I went into communications and public relations, preparing executives for media interviews. So I've done thousands of interviews. And then I made a switch into tech, into business systems analysis, and systems engineering, and I ported these skills over. And that's where I found that there was a big gap that I wanted to focus on. Good interviewing is a little bit of sales, teaching, psychology, and communication. And I'm writing a book about this. It'll be published next year. So today, I'm going to share a little bit about, from that book, the top techniques to get stakeholders to talk. An interview is really just a conversation with a purpose. It's not a conversation. It's a conversation with a purpose. We are extracting something from somebody else. And when we look at it with that kind of a lens, it's in all of our jobs, no matter what we do. We're extracting information from somebody else. Has anybody ever taken an entire course in stakeholder interviewing? One person. And what course was that? A university course? Okay. So that's interesting that you even found one course, because I did a search of all the universities around the world for an entire course on stakeholder interviewing, and I didn't find even one. I found maybe a couple of hours, a module here and there, but it's a very difficult skill to find, so I'm glad that you're here today. And there's so many different kinds of interviewing styles. HR, journalists, researchers, therapists, law enforcement, they all have a different spin, right? And but can you imagine though? If we had the journalistic interview and we're just using those skills, it's like we go to our stakeholders and we say, is that true? What do you have to gain from that? Okay? Or the therapist interview, trying to see on why we're going to feel better if we get that user story, how it's going to improve our life. So it doesn't quite fit. The law enforcement one, that's the worst of all, isn't it? You took those user stories, didn't you? You took them from somebody else. So the key difference in our context with our stakeholders is that we're trying to make them feel comfortable, build rapport, get that trust, okay? Understand what they're saying, and get the most information out of them. We don't arm ourselves with a list of questions and intent on getting these answered. It's much more collaborative. We've been talking about that all morning. And in some ways, we're kind of a coach, okay, to get the best out of them. We might come in with our list of questions and then get redirected based on what they say. So interviewing stakeholders is very different in a tech context. But interviewing, to be sure, is the front end to everything that we do. Daily Scrum, getting information from somebody else. What did they work on? What are they going to work on? Barriers. User stories, we're getting user stories from stakeholders. We're getting information, we're pulling information out of them. Development, tests, code reviews, product backlog, sprint planning, retrospectives. We're all getting information from somebody else and pulling it out of them. It's not easy to do because there's language problems. There's over 100 major languages. There's cultural differences at the individual, family, community, corporate level. Different corporations have different cultures. Expertise. Are you new at interviewing? Or are they new at being interviewed? So that's a double problem. Personality clashes, rapport. Do we know how to build it? We're going to talk about that today. Timing. Maybe it's just a bad day. The tools. Tools is an interesting one because we think that tools really shouldn't impact an interview. I mean, what's the big deal? But if your stakeholder is using Miro for the first time to collaborate, then their focus is away, their resources are away. Depending on their computer ability, they may be overloaded, some cognitive overload happening as well. So tools is actually a very important decision when you are interviewing. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe the stakeholder is not technical. Maybe they don't talk enough because they're shy. They don't answer questions. They don't have time. They go on tangents. Down the rabbit hole we go. We're going to talk about that. And of course, multitasking. Everybody is multitasking. That's the way that it is now. But all of these challenges might leave us a little frustrated. So we're going to talk about interviewing in terms of two main topics. One is planning the interview, and the other one is doing. Let's talk about planning first. The first thing that we need to do is identify what information we need from who. And let's suppose that we're going to interview the CEO and a customer service agent for a new app. Who are we going to ask to confirm buttons on the screen? So what kind of buttons, when and where? Who thinks the CEO? CEO is going to know about buttons? Nobody. Customer service agent? Some of you, and some of you aren't sure. At first glance, I would say the same thing. I would say the CEO. However, what if the company only had 10 employees and the CEO is the founder of the company and the initial developer of the system and a very hands-on CEO who does care about the buttons? So that might change things. The more information we have about our stakeholders, their role, their history, about their interests, their influence, what they care about, the better our questions become. And that happens in our planning. I was the consultant on a project. I am a consultant. I've worked every industry, all over the place, all over the world, really. But I was a consultant on a project for a proposal management system to manage about $700 million worth of proposals. So probably more money than a lot of people have. A lot of tension. And I was leading the retrospective. And I could have walked into that room without any preparation at all. Because I know what a retrospective is. I know how to execute it. I know how to do it. I know how to summarize the findings. I know how to do all of that. I really didn't need to do any prep. But here's the thing. I decided to do some prep. I decided to get to know the stakeholders more before I got into that room. There were about 10 business stakeholders, and I found out that it was the first time that many of them were in that kind of an activity. Maybe some of them were shy. I knew that from interacting with them. And I also realized one very important thing, that they were friends with the developers. That changed everything. Because I knew from that they were unlikely to criticize the developer's work. They saw feedback as criticism because they were new to the activity. And maybe they were also hesitant to criticize me because I developed those user stories and worked on the project. So I knew that I need to make them comfortable. I needed to reassure them that criticism was okay and welcome. And I knew that humor might just be my secret weapon. So here's what I said to them. I said a few different things to them, but here's the most important piece here. This is one of those rare moments in life where you get paid to complain. And the more you complain, the happier I'm going to be because it's helping us. And I'm going to start by telling you what I didn't like about the system. So once I opened that door, and they started laughing, and they started talking. But I needed to set that stage. So what information do you need to know about your stakeholders? I'm going to give you a few ideas around that. Personality. What's their personality like? Are they shy? Are they extroverted? Are they positive? Are they negative? Do they talk a lot? They don't? Personality. Role on the project versus their position day to day. Their problems and pain points. Try to find that out before you get into a room with them. Previous experience. And please feel free to take pictures. I'm great with pictures, especially if you get the right side. Previous experience on the project, in general, in their role with the company. What's their previous experience? Familiarity with the project. How many times have we walked into a room and that person didn't even know about the project? It happens. But we need to find that out in advance. Impacted by change. Stakeholders who are impacted by change are going to be better collaborators, better contributors, okay? Impacted by the change. And attitude about the project. Are they supportive? Are they negative about it? It doesn't mean that we kick them out of our meetings if they're negative about the project, but it's something that we monitor. Are they still contributing? Okay? So these are some things that you want to know before you get into that room. I'm a big fan of AI to do some of this research for me, to be a collaborator with me. You can get this information from the person themselves. I like open and honest dialogue. Are you supportive of this project or not? Okay. You can get it from the project sponsor, from other team members. LinkedIn, you can find information about them. And you can even put a profile of your stakeholder into an AI tool like ChatGPT and ask the AI tool more about them based on their persona and characteristics and what you know about them. So when we have this information about the stakeholders and we feed it into the AI tool and generate some starter questions and user stories, okay? And as we know, I mean, we're all kind of using AI, I think. The more information we have, the better the prompt, the better response that we're going to get. So this information that we feed in is really, really critical. Let's talk more about questions. Regardless of the questions you need to ask, you need to figure out the question order and the organization of the interview. And if you choose the wrong organization for your stakeholders and your project, or you don't choose at all, you will not get the same results. General questions, then specific. So you might want to organize your interview that way. Certainly easier, general overview questions about the project, and then diving into their specific role. Known and then unknown. So this is what we know. And then confirm that and moving into what we don't know. Easy and then contentious. We definitely wouldn't want to do it the other way around. Or we could have a very short interview. Easy questions and then contentious. Current state and then future state. Problem and then solution. We wouldn't do it the other way around. We need to know what the problem is. We can have questions around that. Important questions and then less important questions. Why would we do this? Just in case we run out of time. Get those important questions in first. Project objectives. Maybe that's the way you want to organize your interview. And relationship building. As a consultant, it's one of the key things that I do when I get into a room with people I don't know is relationship building questions. And it's not necessarily, how are your kids doing in school? It's not necessarily that with people I don't know, but it is about what is your job? Do you like your job? How long have you been here? Just showing some interest in them. And you could also use multiple techniques, of course. Relationship building, and then some of the other techniques, and organize your interview that way. You could also ask AI how to organize your questions based on the stakeholders and the project that you have. And it does a pretty good job. I've tested it if it doesn't hallucinate. Okay, so we've planned the interview. We know what we need from who. We've got stakeholder information. We've got AI help. We've got our questions. We've got them in the right order. We're done the planning. Now we're going to move into doing. How to do it. And this is where the rubber hits the road, okay? Now, the communication model here, it's a very old one that I have adapted. And basically, all I want you to know from it is that you, as the sender, are creating the message. You are making the decisions about the channel, so face-to-face, Zoom, the technique. Are you using retrospective? Are you, what process modeling? What is your techniques? And the tool. And those together with the tone and the way that you present your message to stakeholders, the only thing that they are doing is interpreting your message. And the reason I want you to know about this slide is for you to know that you are in control of 80% of this interaction. They are only giving you feedback. And if you're not getting the feedback that you're looking for, then change the front end, change that 80%. And I'm going to get some techniques here that I'm going to help you to how to change that front end. One thing I'd really like you to know is don't fail due to a feeling. So all great interviewers know that trust and relationship are the keys to success, every single one. It's an avoidable reason, okay? So we never want to risk alienating somebody else. The foundation is honesty, empathy, appreciation, and respect with consistency. Consistency is the key word here. And one of the ways you can do that is through an empathy, appreciation, and demand stack. Let's start with the demand first so you can see the difference. I'm wondering if you'd be able to review that document soon. That's just the demand. Empathy, appreciation, demand. I understand that you're really busy, and I appreciate all the time that you're doing for us, and I'm wondering when you have a chance to review that document. Does that feel a little better? Yeah. We always want to keep people on our side. So remember these nice people from the retrospective who were too shy to criticize? I took time to prepare an introductory script that set the tone and made them welcome in that room so they could feel that rapport and trust and feel comfortable. It's being very intentional in that messaging, and how you start the interview affects everything else. Do people feel welcome? Do they feel rapport? Do they feel that trust? Okay, so this introductory script is very intentional. So encouraging stakeholders to talk. The work we did in setting up the interview, the planning, the sequencing of questions, all of that, are all designed to help stakeholders talk. And here's some more help though. 6 very, very good ways. So the direct is, can you be more specific? Whatever they say, can you be more specific? Empathy. I can see how that's difficult. And that's all you need to say. You assume there's more. So no matter what they say, if you feel that they haven't given enough, you can say, what else? Assume there's more. Echoing. This is a popular technique. So they say, the current system doesn't have any reports. The current system doesn't have any reports? And then they start talking. The 5 whys. This is a very popular technique across a lot of disciplines. And it's saying to the stakeholder, well, why is that? Why is that? And drilling down to that 5th level. But sometimes that can be a little intimidating. It's been a little bit confrontational. So you can bring in the technique in a very transparent way and say, you know what? I hear what you're saying, and I really like the detail that you have. I want to apply the 5 whys technique with you. Would you be willing to go through that exercise with me? And now it's transparent, and now it's comfortable, instead of that interrogation of the 5 whys. And silence as a strategy. Journalists use this all the time. All they do is nod. Because people are uncomfortable with having a blank space in the air, right? They try to fill it. Encouraging more specificity. Of course, that's an issue for all of us. And here's 4 different ways how to do it. So that's at the high level. Now, let's run through that again at the detailed level, step by step. I've just told them that what they gave me wasn't what I was looking for. But I didn't have to say that. That's valuable. Can you give me an example? Suppose I'm a new employee and you're teaching it to me. What would you say? So again, I'm saying that what they gave me wasn't really very good. But I don't want to say that. I don't want to break that rapport and trust and feeling of comfort. But we're going to go through it again. And that sounds interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Well, who doesn't want to talk about something that's interesting, somebody finds interesting? Okay, so these are good techniques as well. Now, not getting the information. Imagine that. You ask the same thing in a different way. You don't even have to ask it in the same session. You don't even have to ask it to the same person. So here's one way. What are your pain points? If their boss is sitting next to them, maybe they don't have any pain points. Another way to say it, or what are some of the parts of the system that aren't working that well? Well, if the developer is sitting beside them, maybe everything's okay. And here's the last one. What do you wish you could change for your future system? Now that's objective, right? That's clean language. I heard that term last night from a new friend. So, different flavors of the same question. We think about this in advance before we get into that room. We always want to have backup questions, just in case that first question doesn't go that well. We're going to have, just like a process map, we have the primary flow, alternate, and that exception for that situation. So we also want to be very intentional through words, because words convey tone. What reports do you need? It's pretty objective. What reports do you think you need? Not so much. And are you sure you need these reports? I was actually asked that by a project manager within the last few months. So this is like a real example here. Are you sure you need these reports? You never want your stakeholders to clam up or feel uncomfortable, because then they shut down and you don't get the information that you're looking for. So just be intentional through tone. We love it when stakeholders talk, don't we? I mean, it's our biggest problem, is that they're not talking. But sometimes they talk too much, and we need to interrupt them. I like being preemptive. So through time boxing, for example, that's a very subtle way of look, we've reached 5 minutes. But there are some other ways that if you need, you can interrupt stakeholders, and they will not get offended through these techniques, because I try them every day. So one of them is the time anchor. Oh, we only have 5 minutes left, so let's shift gears to, so now it's about the time. It's not about them talking so much. Summarizing and cutting in. So let me make sure that I understand this so far. Okay, so now they're interested, they're ready to correct you because you're listening. And parking it, of course, parking it is a good way to do it. Pivoting with their words. This is actually a very good one, because you mentioned about the auditing. I want to get back into that, okay? So they feel a compliment because we're getting back to what they talked about. Asking for specifics. That's great background. Can you give me an example? Okay, so I cut them off, really, but not in an offensive way. And interrupting them with a compliment. I use that one all the time. Compliments have to be honest and authentic and real. But that's a very good one to use, because nobody ever takes offense. So that's very interesting what you said about the logistics. And it reminds me that we haven't yet talked about that, okay? So interrupting with a compliment is terrific. So using visual and verbal communication for everything that you do, this is an entire different presentation. But the relevance here for us in interviewing stakeholders is that some people are just primarily visually oriented. A lot of people in IT. Sales, I would say, is more verbally oriented. But if we don't address both, So if we don't have the questions written down and we say them, then we are losing their ability to comprehend and digest what we're trying to say. So I always go for visual and verbal. I mean, can you imagine this presentation, which is only 25 minutes, but if I was all verbal, nothing visual? I mean, how much would you really take away? So it's a little bit more time to have something visual and verbal, but that upfront savings saves you so much throughout the whole life cycle of working with that stakeholder. So that's why I encourage that. So in conclusion, I'm encouraging you to do your research about your stakeholders. Leaning on AI to do the work, you can save an incredible amount of, oh, look at the paparazzi are here. He works as a pharmacist when he's not taking pictures. Thank you to my husband, by the way, for coming to Prague with me. And organizing your questions and using effective interviewing techniques. That's what we've talked about today. And I'm here if we have some questions. I'm here right now. I'm here after. I'm here for another 2 days, actually. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.